Hi, welcome to this session. It's about how can you supercharge your app service applications to the global scale. My name is Tiago Costa and we will walk you through how to build that. So doing a small presentation about myself. So my name is Tiago Costa. I work as a cloud architect and advisor as an independent contractor for several companies around the world. I'm also a trainer, so I basically help people getting certified on Azure topics. And I'm also the author of some of the Microsoft courses and speaker in some events like Microsoft Ignite and like the Global Azure. I'm also an MVP for Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Certified Trainer, and Certified Trainer Regional Lead. You have all my contacts here on the bottom of the slide, so if you want to reach me even after this session, be my guest, just shoot me an email, follow me on Twitter, and just send me a message. Usually I'm very proactive to respond on Twitter. So what will be our agenda for today? So first we're going to start to check a little bit about what the Microsoft Azure overview is today. Okay, what are the numbers, how it is growing, etc. And then we're going to talk about a business request that is to grow their global application. So they have to scale their global application. And this was a kind of taken for a real case from a customer that I'm helping them to reach even other levels of global scale. Then we're going to talk about some of the services that I've chosen for this presentation, because building a global application is much more than just app services, traffic manager, and Azure CDN. But let's just say that those were like the first phase that I have done on this customer some years ago, and it helped them and made them grow like a lot in terms of scalability and elasticity of their application. And then, of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about other Azure services. I'm just going to make a reference that you should also include in this kind of design. So currently, Azure is the second largest cloud provider. We have 58 Azure regions where we can build services. Currently, we have more than 100,000 miles of fiber and subsea cable and 130 edge sites. So probably Azure, it's a little bit closer to you than what you thought it is. Some people that live in countries where you don't have a region, probably you have an edge site in one of your main cities. So in terms of numbers, so we have currently 100 gigabits of internet connection. So we can have network connection at 100 gigabits internally. We have 1.6 miles of fiber. So these are just some numbers. I could just bring you some others, okay? But this is just for you guys to see, okay, how big Azure currently is, and it's just not like some servers in some places and that's it, because Microsoft is currently one of the biggest owners of network in the world. So they have, like, Azure is currently one of the largest networks that we have in the world. So everyone talks about Azure this, Azure that, or regions, locations, but I always like to bring you some pictures of how does an Azure region looks like. So this is one of the Azure regions. It's East US. It's in Virginia, 2014. It's the picture of this. And as you can see, so we can see on the right of the picture, we can see that we have some cars there, like a small parking lot, so that you can see as a reference how big, okay, this is. So you can understand that this is quite a big place. It kind of looks like those distribution centers, right? That companies have, like DHL and things like that from the sky. It's what it looks like. But then, if you think that this is big, think otherwise, because this is 3 years later. And as you can see, so the first part over there that I even have zoomed there, that's the original picture that I showed you. And then all the other stuff was, how does this look like 3 years after? So it's pretty impressive to grow. And look at the date. So this picture has already 3 years too. So imagine how does this site looks like today. And don't forget that for many years Azure had grown 100% year after year. Today, it's not 100%, but still big numbers. I think the last one was around 70 something percent growth year after year. So it's like, wow, it's impressive. So that load grows. Of course, Microsoft changes the kind of servers that they use, so they concentrate more compute capacity in the same volume, and all of that. But still, they need to grow their data centers. So imagine how this site looks like today. Also, something important is why Azure. All the time I have people question me, but why do you love so much what you do, and why should I move to Azure as a professional and things like that? So I always tell them like, well, there's a huge demand for customers. So we have customers from mainly in the US and Europe that they're always trying to move more and more stuff to Azure. So if you are let's just say, aware of how Azure works and you're an Azure professional, you're going to get a job for sure. Okay, I don't know anyone that is an Azure professional that has really hands-on experience with Azure that doesn't have a job. Okay, if they exist, it's because they don't want to have a job. To be totally honest. So also fun to work with. Every project that I do, it's always different. It's amazing because we have new services. We have new features on existing services, and so the same kind of task, it's going to be delivered in a different way. And then, of course, the pay as you use model. That's like something that I really love because now, okay, I can just pay for exactly what I need. And I don't need to overpay to have like a huge server, a huge capacity on my server. And then I'm just going to use a chunk of that. And that's what you have on-prem. I have to buy hardware to respond to picks. But let's face it, picks is a pick, so you don't have always a pick. Some days you don't even have them, so you have over-provisioned hardware everywhere, so you should not have that when you're using the cloud. Talking about some of the cloud models that we have, okay, we have on-prem, and then in on-prem, basically we can have and we have to manage everything, basically, okay? The network, the storage, the servers, and the virtualization, and also the OS, the middleware, so basically everything. If you move to cloud computing, so the big advantage of moving to cloud computing is that last four pieces over there from virtualization, servers, storage, and networking, they are no longer managed by you, okay? They are managed by the service provider, and that's like awesome, okay? But you still manage the operating system, the middleware, etc. So there is an advantage there because you don't have to buy hardware anymore. If you don't have the need to have that hardware always available, hey, you just don't need it. You just can just basically choose what you want whenever you want. But you still need to manage patch OSs and things like that, which is, okay, not that good. So if we move to platform as a service, all that stuff managing the OS, the platforms, the middlewares, you don't do it anymore. So that's done by the provider. And that's why I love in Azure and other cloud platforms is like using platform as a service. Because all of that doesn't bring me that much value into my business and my customers' businesses. So I prefer to pay a little bit more, PaaS services in comparing to infrastructure as a service, but we don't have anyone that needs to be managing that. We just offload that management to the cloud provider. But I still need to manage, of course, my application, my data, all of that. And you're still responsible for the security of your application. If you have, like, I don't know, an application that is prone to, let's just say, SQL injection, for example, it's not the platform that is going to help you on that. Okay, Microsoft has some tools to detect that, but hey, if you just basically build something that is not secure, well, it's not going to be secure on the application level. Okay, but Microsoft is responsible for all the security when it comes to the infrastructure components. Okay, that is Microsoft. You don't have to do it yourself. And of course, then we have software as a service, where, well, basically the cloud provider manages everything. So if we want to give some examples on this, infrastructure as a service, let's give virtual machines, okay, Azure VMs. Platform as a service, like the app service, SQL databases, they will be platform as a service. And in software as a service, well, maybe we can consider that like Office 365, where, hey, I just want a user, you just put a user there, you create a tenant, boom, and you have mailboxes, you have Teams, you have OneDrive, SharePoint, all of that without you needing to manage or installing something or creating something. You just create a user. That's it. That's a configuration. So it is pretty cool. So what is the challenge that made me create this presentation? So like I said, so I had a customer some time ago that they wanted to host their global customer experience web application and some service layers that they had for mobile applications that have like also a mobile app, etc. They have customers in Europe, in the US, and also around Asia, and they want fast response times across all the regions on the globe. Basically, currently, this application was only running in Europe, and it was on their data center in Europe, and basically people from the US and people mostly from Asia, they were suffering some timeouts because the latency was huge and it was taking a long time, etc. So they also want to have a scalable solution when needed, because they also have like promotions and things like that they boom, the load increases a lot. So they also need to be able to respond to that. And also they want something that is low maintenance. So they really don't want to spend that much time and money and effort in doing maintenance on that. So this is our challenge. So of course we started to look at this, and I started to say, well, if we want to move to Azure, so let's start with the Azure App Service, right? And with the Azure App Service, I can basically build and host my web application over there. So the Azure App Service is a scalable platform where I can host web applications and also REST services. This supports multiple languages and platforms like .NET, .NET Core, Java, PHP, Python, you name it. Also, basically the workers that are running this, okay, they can be Windows or Linux. So if I prefer to build something in .NET Core and run that on Linux, I can do it. If I have a Python app and I think, well, this will run better on Linux, hey, you can just do that. That's fine. That's not a problem. Also, there is a huge integration with development tools like Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, Eclipse, Azure DevOps, you name it. For example, in this case, I had a bunch of people that were coding in Visual Studio, the full Visual Studio, and already had some other team that they were doing like some of the service layer that they already had moved to Visual Studio Code because they said, oh, it's lighter, we don't need all of that, etc. So they were preferring to do stuff in Visual Studio Code. So that's fine, but everyone can build in whatever IDE they prefer with this. And of course, this also supports custom domains, which is a much needed feature for every customer, I think. So what are the basically the upselling points that we have with app service when we bring to this case? Of course, look, global data center footprint, that was like massively important for this customer. Also the Azure AD integration with this. So we are using Azure AD business to consumer in this project. So it was like awesome to have this. And also their users from their Azure Active Directory that are like company users, all the corp accounts, they can just log in into the website using seamless integration, and then they just enter and they can admin whatever they need to admin on the website, like change prices on products, upload new products, and things like that. Also, we have a fully managed platform. So we have Autoscale and load balancing in place in this one. We have backup and recovery, and also high availability with auto patching. So we don't have to worry about building all this kind of stuff. Also, productivity development. So I can also have deployment slots with this. So I can have several environments using deployment slots in a very easy way to configure this. So it's very easy for me just to test stuff using a deployment slot and things like that. It's pretty cool what we can do with this. So this was kind of a natural choice. So the highlights that I want to do on this, that I want to call out, it will be the worldwide data center coverage. I can have Azure Functions and web jobs to do like some background tasks. I can have custom domains with SSL. I have the Autoscale, that is a feature that I'm really going to need. I also have the deployment slots, continuous integration and continuous deployment to connect this with DevOps. And of course, always important is the integration that I have with other Azure services like Azure CDN, so Content Delivery Networks, the Traffic Manager, and also Front Door. Okay, so I had both that up and running. In terms of tiers, what kind of tiers do I have on the app service? So I'm not going to bother you guys with all the details on this. I'm sure that everyone can just basically go to the website and check this there. But I have, like, in Windows plans, I have the free and the shared. On Linux, we don't have shared, okay? But I can have like 60 compute minutes for free. And if I want to go to the shared, I have 240 compute minutes a day. And then I also have custom domains, okay? So we can have those two things. To be totally honest, free and shared is something that I don't use that much, okay? Usually I prefer go to at least a standard. In a standard, I get like 10, okay, instances, and I get auto-scaling out of this. In basic, I get 3 instances, but I don't get auto-scaling, and auto-scaling is a much needed feature for us. I can also attach Traffic Manager to this. I also have deployment slots and backups. So really, when things really start to feel very, very interesting when it comes to app services, is definitely on the standard tiers. I also, today I refer everyone, hey, look for Premium V2, because sometimes in prices, they are not that much expensive comparing with the standard tiers. I also have another one, which is the isolated. Okay, the isolated allows you to get up to 100 instances, auto scaling too, of course, and a very, very cool feature that is called VNet isolation. So sometimes I have companies that, oh, we can go to app services, that's fine, but look, we cannot have a public endpoint. Even if I tell them, hey, look, but we can use firewalls to protect this, but they said, no. There is an endpoint. We cannot have an endpoint over there, so you need to solve that. Well, that's just not possible. So currently what we can do is to use the ASIS, okay, the app service environment, where, yes, over there we get to have that isolation. So I can run this, the app service multi-tenant that we're going to talk about. I can also have the ASIS, okay, like I said, but I can also run this on Azure Stack. So if you want to run this on Azure Stack, yes, you can run this on Azure Stack too. So Azure Stack, for people that don't know what it is, it's a version that you can install on-prem, and you can buy hardware that already comes with this. It's certified hardware, and you can have kind of an Azure, okay, in your own data center. It's pretty cool. And then of course you can connect this with global Azure and things like that. So things that I can do in my app service, I can just go to app settings, okay? There's a version of app settings, and I can just define some stuff there. As you can see there, like application context DB, and I'm putting a connection string over there. Oh, it's a SQL database. And then I have some other app settings like website node default version, the item count, and an API key that I put there. So you can just do this, and the values that you put on this, the app settings and the connection strings that you put on this will, okay, override the application ones that are in the configuration files. Okay, so if you have a configuration file with an API key of AAAA, this one will override that. Same thing for item count and things like that. So it's pretty easy for you to basically use this and change this. Also, auto-scaling. So when it comes to auto-scaling, we have a bunch of rules on this that we can have scheduled or based on performance metrics. And this is an important topic because I have customers that they know that they need more compute capacity in certain days of the week. Okay, so like for example, one of them is like on Friday night and Saturday night, they really need to have more compute. So we have a scheduled scaling rule. We just say, hey, at Friday this time, I need 8 instances, and then boom, okay, we have 8 instances. And then I know that Saturday, I think is like at 5 a.m. or something, I can start to decrease that. So I just start to decrease that because they don't need that capacity over there anymore. Sometimes we have unpredictable loads, and then we have to trust on performance metrics for that. And depends on what kind of app are you building. Sometimes it's CPU, the threshold that you want to measure. Sometimes it's memory, or it can even be a queue. If you have like a worker, usually when you send stuff to a worker, well, that worker will be running at 100% CPU, or it will spend a lot of memory. Kind of depends on how you build it, how you implemented it. So it's never very good, okay, to measure stuff with CPU or memory in those cases. So if you measure in number of messages that you have in the queue, wow, that's awesome, okay? That's what you want. So you can put a queue in between the worker, and then, well, depending on the number of messages that you have on the queue, you can grow the number of instances. All this, you can set up also minimal and maximum number of instances that you want to achieve. Like, for example, you say that, hey, look, yeah, I want to grow based on a metric, but even if I need it, I don't have a budget, okay, to pay 30 instances that premium tier gives me. But I can pay, I don't know, let's imagine 12. I just put a max number of instances threshold over there, and it's just going to cap at 12. So you should be okay with that. So let's do a demo. Okay, let's jump in here to a demo, and I'm going to start to do a demo here to create basically a web application. Okay, so I'm just going to click here where it says create create a resource, and I'm just really going to type like web app. Okay, so it's, of course, you can do this in very different ways. So let me create here a web app. Yeah, that's my subscription. I have a bunch of resource groups, but I want to create, okay, another one for us. So I'll just say Global Azure. And then I need to provide here a name. I'm just going to say app, okay, serve demo. Let's see if this one is available. It is. Then I can choose if I want to publish code or a Docker container, because we can also run containers inside your web apps. I'm good with code. And then I need to select here, okay, what is the .NET Core framework, or ASP.NET or Java. And if we scroll down this, we also have Node, PHP, Python, Ruby. So all of this, it is supported. So I'm going for .NET 3.1. Then I can choose between Windows and Linux, because, well, in here we support this also on Linux. And then the region. In the region, I'm going to swap this to West Europe because it's just basically closer to me, okay? And then I can click here, and I'm creating here a new app service plan. So the app service plan is really the compute capacity that you're going to have. So you have the SKU and the size, and I can click here and change this. So as you can see, we have several options in here. And I can just say, well, I don't want the standard. I usually go for the premium V2. Okay, so I'll go for the premium V2, and I'm going to click here to create this. Okay, so you could also put some more stuff in the monitoring and also on the tags tabs. I'm a huge fan of tags, so I tag everything. This was a demo, so I'm not going to lose time because it's not the reason why you're here today. But tags are like super important so that you can make a reference to your stuff, and also for billing purposes. Okay, so you should always use tags for billing purposes. So let's just wait a moment for this to deploy. Okay, so usually this is pretty fast, okay, to deploy. So I need to deploy a server farm, which is the app service plan, as you can see over there, and also my my web app. So in a moment, I should have my web app ready. There you go. Okay, so this is our web app. So if I go to my resource, so there you go. Okay, I have my web app here. It's up and ready. So I can just deploy something, okay, to my web app. But don't forget that, look, this is a global web application. So of course, right now I should have created exactly another web app, but in a different, okay, in a different region. So I created this in Europe. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another web app. Okay, so this one I'm going to do it a little bit faster. Okay, so I'm just going to choose here the global Azure App Serve Demo US, and yeah, .NET Core, and in here I'm going to choose East, okay, East US, and then yes, a new one, and I'm going also to basically to create a premium plan. I just want premium plans for the both web apps. I'm just going to create two, but like we saw in the beginning of the customer needs, they said that they also have customers in Asia. So yeah, I should also have some stuff running on Asia for this. So this is how we can, in a very easy way, okay, um, just to create here a web app. Of course, now if we go and we will see here, let me just search for my app services. You're going to see this is my first web app. It's already here. Okay, I can just get, okay, the publishing profile as you see over here, and I can just basically grab that and then just use this to deploy. Or I can just connect Visual Studio and build a web application from Visual Studio and then deploy this directly through here. Or of course, what I should be doing is using some kind of DevOps approach. So usually I use Azure DevOps. With Azure DevOps, then I'm going to deploy the web application. For time concerns, I'm not going to do that today. So there are other sessions where they cover that, but you should also do that. So you're going to see in a moment that are going to have already deployed some stuff to those two web apps, so that you can just see something something there. Okay. So now that our demo is done, so the current status of our stuff will be something like this. Okay, so I have West Europe, I have East US, and in West Europe, I have an app service plan with a web app. And of course, then I added some stuff there, okay, that we don't have the time to build everything in this session. But if you have like some worker stuff, like with a function app, you should have a queue in between your app service and your function app. And of course, I have Azure AD, I have Azure DNS, and well, right now I have two endpoints. So if I'm in the internet and I want to connect to my web app, well, I have to know the URL of the West Europe, and I'm in the West Europe version, or I'm in the East US version, which is, let's just face it, not what we want. Okay. So to solve this problem, we're going to use something that is called Azure Traffic Manager. Okay, and Traffic Manager will allow you to control the distribution of user traffic. So we can use as service endpoints, an Azure virtual machine, for example, an app service, or an external endpoint. So these are kind of the stuff, okay, that I can use as endpoints. What will be the benefits of using something like this? Okay, so improve the availability of critical applications. So even if you don't want, like we want, that is to provide like distribute for traffic and large complex deployments, that's what we want, the last bullet point that you have here. But if I don't have that, okay, even if I just have like a small application, but it's really critical, it can't be offline. If you have one of the regions that is offline, hey, you still have the other region, that is really unlikely for Azure to have problems in two regions at the same time. So we could do that. Also, to perform service maintenance without downtimes. One of the things that I really find weird is to find websites that you go there and they just tell you that, oh yeah, you know, tomorrow from X to Y, we're going to be offline. I'm like, say what? Very weird, okay? But we kind of something like this, well, we can do that. Okay, so we can just shut down one of the places, okay? We do our maintenance and then we just turn it on again. And your users will still run their workloads and they don't feel anything different. Okay, so we can have that. How can we configure this? So first of all, we need to create a traffic manager profile. So we're just going to create a traffic manager profile. And then in that profile, we're going to create some, what is the balancing method. And we have several algorithms. I can have geography, priority, performance, and some others. I'm just going to focus on those three, okay? Geography, so I can say that all the traffic that comes from a certain region, let's just say Europe, goes to West Europe. So all the traffic from all Europe goes there. Then I can say that all the US traffic goes to the US data center. So I'm forcing this to specific web apps, so specific endpoints that we have. I can also say priority. So priority, it just tell them, hey, look, all the traffic goes there. And then if this one is not available, yeah, I can just go to another endpoint. So it's kind of a fail-safe system there. And if you go for performance, that's where things is pretty interesting, is that you don't have to set up anything almost. You just need to say performance and you put endpoints, and then based on a series of rules and tables, that latency tables that Microsoft has, they will detect from where you are requesting, okay, access to that web app, and then they will basically route you, okay, to the one that you're going to have the low latency. So imagine I'm in the Netherlands and I have my web app, I have two endpoints, US and West Europe. Of course, if I'm in the Netherlands, West Europe is in the Netherlands, so it's really, really likely that that will be the lower latency for me. So I will just go to that endpoint. So it's pretty cool what you can do with this. Then I can also add a DNS CNAME record that will point to the traffic manager endpoint. So the traffic manager you're going to see in the demo, I'm going to create one, is going to give you, okay, a specific endpoint for the traffic manager. I don't want that. Okay, I really don't want that. I really want is something like myapp.com or something like that. Okay, so you can basically, it's just doing a CNAME record over there. Okay. So how does this work? So as you can see there, that's the customer. So number one, I'm going to the DNS server and I'm going to say, hey, I want to reach www.contoso.com. And then, there's a CNAME record that just points to contosoweb.trafficmanager.net. Okay. So number three, I get to the traffic manager. Then the traffic manager has the algorithm defined, and you have three endpoints over there. It will select the endpoint, and then it basically will tell you, okay, to your browser, let's imagine it's the browser, it will tell you that, hey, look, you should connect to that first endpoint on the left over there. And then that there's a TTL over there, so a time to leave on that. And then during that TTL, you just go straight. You don't bother the traffic manager anymore. This is not like a network load balancer, like an Azure load balancer, where all the traffic passes through the load balancer. This one doesn't do that. It works in a different way. So it just tells you that, hey, you should connect there. But this is seamless to the users, because the users, they still connect to www.contoso.com, and that's what they see in their browser. They don't see something different. Then I bring you here some of the basically the algorithms that we have. So this one is, the first one is around the failover algorithm. So I have like three endpoints, priority 1, 3, and 2. So it's priority 1 is not working, let's imagine that. Of course, Traffic Manager now doesn't route you there. They will route you where to basically priority 2. And of course, same way, priority 2 now also doesn't work, okay? Then you're routed to priority 3. And let's imagine that priority 3 will not have any problems, okay? So there you go. So the geography and the performance, they work in a different way, okay? So depending where that user is from, or they have a rule, like in geography, that really points, oh, you need to go to West US, or it basically detects through basically the latency tables where you should go, okay? And then basically route you to one or the other, kind of depends from where you want to go. So now let's do another demo, okay? And in this demo, our idea now, it is going to be to create an Azure Traffic Manager. So let's just do that. So there you go. So I'm just going to create here a resource, and guess what? I'm going to search for Traffic Manager, okay? And I have here a Traffic Manager profile. That sounds interesting. And then I'll just say here, Global Azure. Let's see if this one is available. Oh, it is available. I could choose performance, and as you can see here, I have a bunch of other methods. Performance is just the easiest one, so I'm just going to for geographic so that you can see how this one works. I'm going to choose here the Global Azure. And a very interesting point in here is that you see here, this is the resource group location of the resource group that I've chosen there. This one, it just doesn't let you choose resource location. You don't have a resource location here because the Traffic Manager, it is considered to be what we call a global Azure service. So basically, it is deployed across the regions. There you go. Creating a Traffic Manager, it is pretty fast. I can just go to my Traffic Manager, and then this is my Traffic Manager. I can go to the endpoint option, and I just need to add, okay, 2 endpoints in this. I'll click Add, and I'm just going to say Europe. Okay, you could just call it whatever you want. And now, what is the target point? You can still run cloud services. That's still an option, but I can just go here and I can just say, well, it's an app service, and I can select this one, the second one, because the second one is the one that is from Europe. And then you could choose here, okay, what is the regional grouping for this? I'll just say, well, Europe. And you could even specify, okay, what is the country in Europe where you can do this. I'm not going to fill in that part, so I'm just going to say Europe in general. And I'm going to add a second endpoint. I'll just call it USA. Then another app service. I'll choose the first one. And in regional grouping, I will say North America. And then in here, I'm going to say, yeah, it's going to be United States. And because it's United States, you can still even go here through the state, okay, in the US. So you can even select a specific state in the US. And then I'm going just to press OK. And so now this is being built, and so the endpoints now, they need to be checked, because here where you see the monitoring status of this, okay, this needs to be ready online. So right now we cannot test this yet. Okay, so this needs to be configured in the back. So in the meantime, when this is being done, let's just review here what is the current status of our Azure infrastructure that we have now. So we still have the West Europe stuff, the East US stuff, right? And what we have now is Traffic Manager, and now I have a specific endpoint to go to that Traffic Manager. Okay, and then yes, I can go to West Europe or West US depending from where my connection is. So now I have a unique domain name, and I will reach one point or the other point with doing that. So let's get back to our demo, and what I'm going to do here, just for us very quickly to be able to test this, is I'm going for the app services. I'm going for the one in Europe. There you go. And what I'm going to do now is under development tools, we have something called App Service Editor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it. Okay, this. So it just takes a while to load. So if we see here, you see here there's like something here that says A App Service Developers. And I'm just going to add here something like Europe. Okay, so that we can have something saying, okay, something that says Europe over there. So let's just close this. And let's do the same thing, okay, for the other one. So this one is the US version of that. So let me just go to this. This takes always a little bit of time to load. There you go. A app service developers, and then I'm just going to type here USA, okay? So that we can see a difference. Of course, in real life, look, this is always going to be the same web application. It's going to be a custom web application. So now, if I just open the URL of this, you see that this one shows there Europe. And if I open, okay, the one in the US, you're going to see that this one is showing USA. Great. So this, I just want this here so that we can see a small difference. So now if I go to my traffic manager profile here, so you see that they are both online now. So I can just use this DNS name, and I'm in Europe. Okay, so if I do this, boom, see, I'm basically seeing Europe. Of course, if I was in the United States, okay, I'll see here the US version. So I'll go to the app service in the US, and you can see here, okay, see, this is the URL that I'm using, global Azure. Okay, I have a typo, but it works. And basically, we can see that it's working, okay, exactly as it was supposed, okay, to be working. So basically, this is what we have. This is our current status, okay, and everything is working quite well. I can improve this, of course, and one of the first things that I can do is I can use Azure CDN. So Azure CDN will allow me, okay, to serve content from like an Azure Storage account or a cloud service or app service, etc., and have a separated host name. And I can have static data and static files like, for example, CSS files, files like JavaScript, but also pictures and videos being served through a content delivery network. This will, the DNS anycast will basically get the content closer to users, because what happens is that we have 3 networks that we can use. It's the Microsoft, the Verizon, or Akamai. And all of them will work, okay, in a similar way. Basically, imagine that I have a storage account. I will cache the content of that storage account as a blob storage stuff that I have there. I have a blob container. I put some files there. Let's imagine some pictures. And what happens is that all the pictures, okay, that you have there will be served through a content delivery network, something like this. So I have that Azure Storage account in Europe. Then I have the POP locations. The POP location is called point of presence. And I just have some there, okay? Of course, look, when we're talking about Microsoft network, we have many more. And let's imagine that I have a client that is in South Korea, and he says, hey, I want that picture. That picture, okay, will be copied on the flight to that POP location. It will stay there. Right now, Currently, the default TTL for that file will be 10 days. You can change this if you want. And then for the next 10 days, that file will be there. So if another customer from South Korea goes to the same pop location and says, I want the picture, boom, the picture is there. You get the picture immediately. It's pretty cool, okay, what you can do with this, because you can really put your application across the world just using this. There is even a lot of people right now building websites, and a lot of people are doing their blogs using a platform called Yugo, and then they're deploying that to storage accounts, and then they are using Azure CDN, and they have their sites globally distributed across the world with SSL, with custom domains, and basically in a very, very low price, because this you just pay for what you use. So if you are a really, really large company, yeah, you're going to pay a lot of money for this. But if you just have a small website, you're almost not even going to see how much the bill is going to be. Okay, it's pretty cheap to have that. So I'm going to do a demo now, okay? And in this demo, I'm just going to create, and you're going to see how easy it is to set up an Azure CDN endpoint and a profile, and their source is going to be an Azure Storage account. So let's just do a demo. So let's get back here to their Azure portal. So I need a storage account. So I'm just going to click here, storage accounts. I'm just going to click add. And I'm going to say, yes, the global Azure. And I'm just going to say global Azure CDN. Okay, that's the name of my storage account. Yes, I want in West Europe, and look, I have networking, advanced tabs, etc. I'm just going to review and create, because we're not here to talk about storage accounts today. So this will create our storage account, and this will take a while to create, 15-20 seconds. So in the meantime, I can just start to create my Azure CDN. So I can click create a resource. That will be okay. I type CDN. Oh, CDN, Microsoft. Yeah, exactly what I want. So I click create, and now I have to provide a name for this. I'm just going to say Global Azure Demo. And see, our storage account's already created. And then again, like I did before, I choose the resource group, and I need to choose what is the pricing tier. And I'm going for the standard Microsoft. And as you can see, like I did for the traffic manager, I don't have anywhere where to put the region. What I have again is this, which is just an informative message that says that, hey, your resource group location is West Europe. But that's it. I don't have where to set up, hey, my Azure CDN is going to be on that specific location, because Azure CDN, as you understand the service works, it is a global service too, so it doesn't make sense to bound it to a specific region. Right here, I can also create the CDN endpoint for this. So I'm just going to type global Azure, and this time I put an L on it, and there you go. And I'm going to say that the origin type, and again, the origin could be a storage account, cloud service, a web app, or a custom origin. With custom origin, you can even put on the Azure CDN files that you have on-prem, because the only thing is that, well, the stuff that you said that was going to be there, they need to be publicly available. Same thing goes for the storage account. So storage account, and now I'm just going to select our global Azure CDN.blob.core.windows.net. And I'm just going to press create. And now our CDN, okay, it is being created. It's going to create basically the profile. It's going to create also the endpoint for this. And then when we get back to this, now let's leave this to create, and let's get back, okay, to our presentation. And the current status that I have right now, as you can see, so I already have that blob storage account over there with static content, and that static content can be served through a CDN. And remember that we have one of the requests that we had from our customer was that, hey, look, I need to have a low latency for my customers. And if they serve, and then this case, they served a lot of videos with instructive information how to assemble the products and things like that. So yeah, we can have a CDN and then serve all of that through the static contents. They also have like those assembly manuals that are like PDF files for us. And again, those files are being served through the CDN. So we have this deployed to 3 regions. It's in Asia, in Europe, and in the US. But look, Asia is huge, Europe too, US too, but well, the customer that doesn't have a budget to have more locations. So with CDN, those kinds of files, they can be served way closer to them. Okay, like for example, a customer in Australia, we have pop locations in Australia. So when they click to download a PDF file, it's going to be downloaded from Australia to Australia, which is quite different than coming from Singapore, for example. So this is the kind of stuff, okay, that we can have with this. So let's get back here to our demo, and let's see if it's already done. Oh, there we go, it is. Okay, so we have our CDN here, fully created. You see here, global Azure Azure Edge.net. So this is our endpoint. So we can click on our endpoint. And like I said before, we can put a custom domain on this. We can do geofiltering, for example. And if you don't want some countries, okay, to access your files through the CDN, you can just put here a not rule, so a block, and you can just say, okay, what is it the country that you do not want to have in here, or you can do the opposite, which is an allow rule, and of course it will deny all the other ones. So this is the kind of stuff that we can do. So right now this takes around, like, I think it's around 10 minutes, the Microsoft one, to set up everything. So even if I put it some data on that storage account, it will be not going to be accessible through through the endpoint right now. So it takes around 10 minutes, okay, to be globally available. But what you have to do is literally just use this endpoint name that you have here, okay? And then / imagine a name of the container and the name of the blob, and then boom, okay, you're good to go, okay? That's literally that. There is nothing more that you need, that you have to do. Only be careful. So let's see that. When you create the container, so if you go to storage accounts and global Azure CDN, so if I go to my container and I create here a container, like just call it demo container, the public access level for this, it needs to be a blob or a container, okay? Because they are the two that are anonymous. Let's just say blob, okay? So if I do this, yeah, now it will work. I just need to upload some content there, okay? If I click it private, it will not work under the Microsoft network. So this is our current status. I tell you that we also have other services, right? I can also have Azure Storage. Well, I created one. I can also have Azure Functions. We saw that already in the diagram from the start. I can also have Redis Cache to provide cache mechanisms. I can also have Cosmos DB, which is a NoSQL experience for your data. I can also do SQL database, which is a relational database experience, very similar to SQL Server on-prem. But I can also use other services like search too, so that if you have like search and you want to provide a search experience on your web applications, I really invite you, give a good look at this. This is like super cool what you can do with this. And of course, also Azure Front Door. So today I did the demo with this. This is what's implemented in the customer right now. We are considering to change that to Front Door. So we have Traffic Manager and a bunch of other stuff. Front Door allows you, okay, to have other experiences and other and other features that we don't have under the Traffic Manager. So the full diagram solution could be something like this. Okay, so you have Azure CDN with the blob storage. We have our app services in Europe and in East US. I can have Redis cache between the data layer and the web layer. I can have search. Basically, that search is getting the data, okay, from those databases, and then when our web app just needs to search stuff, it doesn't go through the data layer because the data layer is indexed under the Azure search, so you can just use the cognitive search over there. And of course, we need to geo-replicate the data between West Europe and East US. And that's quite a challenge, okay? Because with Cosmos, that's okay to do. But SQL database, okay, we have to implement certain things because in SQL database, we cannot do replication read and write. We can only do replication to read data. So there's like some challenges in a design like this that we need to solve, okay? But the main part, it is not that easy, not that hard, sorry. It is not that hard to build this, to be totally honest with you. And I see a lot of people struggling with this. I see a lot of people going to infrastructure as a service and creating VMs for this, VMs for that, and then load balancers, and then putting all of that together. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like so many services. And for an application that is not that big, and we could just run this with web apps. And I just put there a web app. But look, that web app, if it's a service web app, each service, you can create a app service plan for each one of them. And you can grow up to 30 instances per app service plan under the premium tier. So we can build huge applications with this. So it's like 30 instances per region. And we don't have 58 regions because some of them are still being built and others are for the Azure Gov Cloud, others is for the DoD, etc. But we have around 42 that are available for us to just put our stuff there. So it's like, come on, it's just we have, and we can build so much in those 42 Azure regions and things that are really, really big. So I always like to give you guys some resources. So I'll just leave you here, okay, some links about some of the tools that you can use, like Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, Git, and Azure DevOps, okay, so that you can just try out this and you can build amazing global solutions with this. So I would like to thank you all for watching my session. And if you want to reach me out, okay, my name is Tiago Costa, and this is how you can supercharge your web applications to the global scale. So if you want to reach me, just send me an email, follow me on Twitter, just ping me, and then I would like to thank everyone. Thanks for watching.